Good evening. Welcome to the workshop session of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a quorum present with Council members McKenzie, Karn, and Arnold. So we'll go ahead and start with our first item on the workshop agenda.
First item is discussion on a request to approve the contract from vendor Prime Engineering, Inc. to provide civil engineering and site design services for the Flint River Headwaters Nature Preserve in Ward 1 in the amount of $250,000. This agenda item is being requested by Economic Development Consultant Brian Hooker. This item is sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem Jamel McKenzie. This item is funded by a HUD award grant of $500,000. This item will service Ward 1.
Good
Mayor
evening.
and Council.
Good evening.
Thank you for hearing us out. I want to introduce and welcome Jaquis Garcia, Economic Development Program Manager. He is the program manager and lead on this project, and so he's going to give you the overview, and then he will introduce the contractor as well. So turn it over to you, Jaquis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager, for having us here to do this presentation. So project overview for Finding the Flint, which became Headwaters Project. This is 7.8 acres of land that the city owns. We acquired the property through general funds. Utilizing our general funds, we acquired the property, and we also acquired HUD funding from Congressman Scott. This effort is to utilize the rest of the funding that we utilized for acquisition. It used to be a former MARTA detention pond site, and again, this was funded through Congressman Scott with the goal of Flint River Headwaters into a community greenway. What it entail is naturalizing the stream and replacing a concrete flume. There will be an elevated wooden walkway, a playground and pavilion, an outdoor restroom, outdoor classroom, local schools, and open and green fields for community use.
Mr. Garcia, I would just ask, keep your voice up and make sure you're speaking into the microphone.
And as part of doing that work, we are asking to bring on Prime Engineering on call for services for site design. And Prime Engineering, if you could please come and answer some questions we may have towards that work, please. Primarily to discuss the scope and the work you're looking at do. So this is the contractor, Prime Engineering, and he's here to discuss the scope to be done on Headwaters.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. My name is Rob McPherson. I'm Vice President with Prime Engineering, and wanted to just cover a few things. This piece of property that's located on the very north end of town, as he said earlier, is the beginning of the Flint River. This is where the Flint River literally first starts. It starts coming out of a pipe that's fed by water that's coming off the MARTA property. It was built back in the, I'm going to guess in the 80s, mid 80s. There's a concrete flume to the middle of the detention pond. So there's no real good aquatic life. There's no water quality treatment. It just goes into this pond. It sort of blows through the pond and goes out. And you have all of this land around it that this concept that's been put together will take this area and really turn it into a really nice, useful area. That area includes removing that concrete flume out of the pond and then putting in like a creek so that it meanders through the pond. We will put elevated walkways through that pond so that you can turn it into sort of a really nice nature preserve and educational area. It will have a trail that goes around the pond, and that trail can also connect into the roads to feed and extend that trail into other areas that is also tied into trail networks all along the Flint River that literally start right there at the edge of East Point and College Park and runs all the way down through Clayton County. The proposal that we have put together basically takes an existing site survey and concept and then turns it into full construction documents with the site fully permitted. The permitting part of this project is a little complicated because we're dealing with a live stream. So we have to get permits from the Corps of Engineers to redo that stream. We have to get permits from the state for entering stream buffer areas. And then we have to do a fairly extensive amount of environmental work and hydrology and hydraulics work related activities. Also part of that design, we'll have two parking areas. One parking area sort of on the northeast corner of the development, and the other will be sort of on the western side of the development next to Woodward Academy's field there. We've included the design for like a pavilion area, as well as bringing in some bathrooms. And these bathrooms would be similar to the, it's a pre-engineered, prefabricated type thing, would be brought in. They'll have electric power, water, sewer, and that way we're providing a place for people to use the restroom while at this facility. And it also includes a lawn area that could be used for educational areas, gatherings. People could come out there with picnics and just sort of hang out in the grassed area and enjoy this really nice nature area. So our proposal that we have presented to the city takes us through the concept design, preliminary design, final design, and permitting of that project, getting it ready so that we can then put it out on the street for a construction contract.
We could go to the question slide. Yeah, site plan. Yeah. So at this moment, we're open for any questions you may have regarding the project or comments.
Mr. Garcia, we are also blessed with the person who basically birthed this project
Yes.
in Hannah Palmer. And I asked her to come because I wanted her to give us a little bit of background on where we were, where this project has been, how we got to this place. And because Mr. McPherson talked about a lot of different things that were going to happen with the plan. And so I wanted to make sure that the community understood how we got there. So, Ms. Palmer, if you would.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to join you tonight and talk about Project Means a Lot to me.
Hey, Hannah.
It's been a few years since I've visited with y'all to talk about this. I'm thrilled to see this proposal tonight and really rooting for the success of this project, which would be the first completed green space on the Flint River Trail. Little background, we started finding the Flint in 2017.
Yeah.
And at some of those first community meetings is where I got to meet some of y'all. And your director of water and sewer at the time, I believe, William Moore,
Yes.
came to those initial meetings at Woodward and let us know that there was a piece of property at the very headwaters of the Flint River that would make a great park, because for many years he had been maintaining that detention area on behalf of MARTA and overseeing that maintenance. So it took several years, but starting in 2019, we started doing community engagement. We had a number of community conversations. We engaged with students. We had a session at Mr. Bobby Wilson's Metro Atlanta Urban Farms. We did a number of site walks. We got permission from MARTA to take students out there to visit, some elected officials. We visited the site with potential funders from Coca-Cola, Microsoft. So we were able to rally support. Now, the Finding the Flint vision starts here at the headwaters. He's correct that that's the first daylighted stretch. There is some groundwater. There's originally a spring on the site. I personally did a lot of historical research on the site to understand where the water's coming from. But what starts here continues under the airport and flows through Clayton County all the way to Florida. And because I'm from Clayton County and because I've lived the last 20 years in East Point, I see it as a connector between places that mean a lot to me. It's not just about College Park, it's about the South Side, and it is a great connector across communities that experience a lot of environmental racism and downstream problems due to the growth of the airport. And so the Flint became a really important symbol to me of how, working together as the South Side, we could start to change that narrative about the South Side as, frankly, a dumping ground. This river's been treated like a sewer for most of our lifetimes. So in 2020, we partnered with Georgia Power to do some initial renderings. Their community development group funded some really beautiful fly-through renderings. In 2022, after many meetings with MARTA, the CEO of MARTA agreed that this was in the best interest of MARTA to transfer the property to College Park for beneficial use in the community instead of just being a fenced-off kind of eyesore that it had been for a long time. And it took a couple years, but by 2024, the city was able to close on that property thanks to y'all's hard work. It's a real triumph, and it's a model for the rest of the South Side, because what happens at the headwaters, Delta is watching. They have a piece of property. Clayton County is watching downstream. Hayfield is watching. And we hope that piece by piece, this becomes a whole greenway of restored river areas that bring the Flint River back onto the map and back into people's lives in a positive way. So I'm here to just express that I'm thrilled that this is advancing and to offer all of the work that we have done. I'm looking forward to meeting and sharing information with your contractor. We have surveys, we have initial concept designs, we have historical research, we have a lot of community engagement, a lot of ideas and feedback from the community that I would love to transfer to y'all's team as you move forward. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to help. I'm your neighbor in East Point. Anytime I can come and rally support for the Flint, I'm here for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Palmer. I appreciate you being here. All right, any questions, comments?
I have, yes, so thank you. I have questions and comments, and I'm overjoyed. Hannah, I am so glad that you were able to make it tonight, because 2017 is when you came and you spoke to us at one of our club meetings about this project. Then I think it was one of the first groups to go touring this property with you. So even before I was a part of sitting up here, this was something that I looked forward to, and I'm so glad that this dream is becoming a reality. And I'm really super glad for you, because you did so much work over these past few years, and the book and everything. So yeah, would love to have you continue in every way possible. So this is a really special moment for me. When I first got on this council, we were kind of whippy-woppy about whether or not we would be able to purchase this property. And at that time, started doing a lot of advocating with David Scott's office, and thanks to Joe Karn as well with his connections, because I was kind of new. And we were able to, through advocacy, receive funding from David Scott's office for this project. The issue has been, and why this is so important today, so that my colleagues can hear, is that we did receive federal funding for this project in the amount of $500,000. However, we have to draw down on those funds in the next few weeks if we're to use it. So the first $218,000 went to reimburse the city for the purchase of the MARTA property. And Rob, I'm so glad that your organization is picking this up with us, and thank you, Brian. Thank you, my brother. I don't want to say your name wrong, but thank you for all your hard work. So the question, I guess, is now, looking at the timeline, and maybe this is a question for you, Brian, what are we looking at in terms of, if we approve this, and I surely hope that we do approve the ability for the city to utilize the rest of this funds and draw down on the remainder of that $500,000 or so. What do we have to do? Meaning, if we bring Prime Engineering on to do this project, does that allow us to utilize those funds? Because it looks like this is still, what they're going to do is going to take more than 2 weeks.
Yes, in conversations with previous grant experts, as in Michelle Johnson and our new grant expert, Sydney Kimbrough, we've determined if we get this project substantially underway immediately, we should be able to request a little forbearance to get it finished, to get the full amounts drawn down. So that's the timing of this entire item appearing on the agenda has been driven by our need to get this thing going, to not forfeit the balance of the funds. We were excited that we were able to deploy some of the funds to reimburse the previous expenditure,
Which went back in the general fund.
on the land acquisition. So that felt good, and that itself is still underway. But we are doing the best we can to make sure we dot all the i's and cross all the t's to get the rest of those funds and not have them go away.
Okay, thank you so much, Brian. And then the other question was for Rob. Looking at what is the kind of timeline, if we say yes and we're able to start getting this ball rolling, what are we looking at in terms of your part of this?
I have not developed a full detailed schedule. I can certainly do that and work with Mr. Booker on that. I think the advantage is that we can get started immediately.
Yes.
And I've already talked internally with our team. I've got some other folks that do this type of work that we can immediately put on this project. The environmental is the same way. Most of this is all in-house, and we can move very quickly on it. I think the biggest challenge is going to be not getting the design done. It's going to be getting the permitting through the permitting process. But we will work with the city as we have in other instances where time is of the essence and money that is tied to grants needs to be utilized quickly. And we will make sure that that happens so that we don't lose those funds.
Well, thank you again. I don't have any more questions. I just appreciate the work that has been done and the effort that is being made to,
Sure.
again, make this dream a reality.
Thank you.
Councilmember Carn?
All right, great project, long time overdue. I think repurposing this site is so very important, not just to College Park, but to our neighbors as well. I think this has the potential to be another regional attraction for the city of College Park. City manager, we don't leave any federal funds on the table, ever, because it lets our congressional delegation know that maybe we don't want to say thanks, but no thanks. So, Rob, I would definitely suggest you put together a fast-track schedule to, do your site planning on this thing and break ground on this thing as soon as possible over there. I know you got a lot of city projects on your desk, but let's make certain that none of our city projects fall off the table here. So I guess we'll be counting on y'all to, and city manager, this is a textbook example, I think, of fast track and expedited permitting, which is definitely something we need to do that the other cities are doing, and they're moving projects forward at lightning speed with expedited permitting. So we've got to make sure we're cutting through the red tape and doing it as expeditiously as possible, but making sure we're covering all the regulatory and the legal things we need to be doing to make sure that we're, doing it the right way. So.
Councilmember Arnold?
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Gay?
No questions.
I want to thank the whole team. I want to thank specifically Ms. Palmer. This has been your brainchild that you have fought, clawed, scratched, advocated, toured multiple times. It's the effort that you have put forth on this has been Herculean. And it has benefited not only the city of College Park, but our entire region, because it helped us all think bigger. And you can't pay for that. You can't bottle it, but we are very fortunate to have you as an advocate in our corner on the south side. And I am grateful to Mr. Garcia and Mr. Hooker, Mr. McPherson for taking the next steps with this. And I hope that as we do that, that we ensure that Ms. Palmer is an integral part of this process, that we don't lose all of the knowledge that we have gained through the community engagement activities that we've done, through all of the community partners who have gotten together to say, we are behind this, we support this. I remember when representatives from Congressman Scott's office came on the tour and had that aha moment and saw what we were trying to do. So let's not lose that momentum. Let's not lose that vision for the entire community, because this isn't about a ward. This isn't even about a city. This is about our South Side. And we can do something really special. And thank you so much for your efforts.
Next agenda item, discussion on ordinance regarding certificate of occupancy provisions, multifamily inspection amendments, and habitability standards. This item is sponsored by Councilman Joe Carn.
Who's going to be taking the lead on this?
Essentially, this is something that's, I guess, long overdue. A certificate of occupancy is the approval to inhabit a building once the building is built, constructed, checked out by code enforcement and the building department. Generally, that certificate doesn't have to be reissued unless there's a complete tear down or rebuild or something totally in terms of the building being eliminated or rebuilt and so on and so forth. We're working to make sure we eliminate blight in our community. And this basically gives us the option with our certificate of occupancies to divide those, whereas you have parcels that have separate buildings on the parcels. And coincidentally, it is a state law that every building on a parcel is required to have a separate certificate of occupancy. This kind of codifies that on the city level. So we want to make sure that those inspections and certificates of occupancy are required. We're focusing in on our apartment communities and some of our motels that are on our high-risk properties list. And we want to make sure, whereas some of those properties are in good shape, we may have several buildings or units that are unacceptable. So we can issue certificates of occupancy for those that are quality and fit for habitation, while at the same time not allowing habitation in the others. This way we can not have some of the issues and challenges that have come up in terms of condemnation or issuing occupancy standards out, so we can, it just gives us a little more flexibility. So it also codifies House Bill 404, which required that rental properties and rental units be fit for human habitation. So we're codifying that in its ordinance. We do have standards, but the state has enacted new standards in '24, which were a lot stronger. And we have a definition for fit for habitation, and this is a pretty mild definition for fit for habitation, and it covers decent living conditions. It covers basic standards. So we want to make sure we're raising the bar, and we have those standards in place. So that's what this is all about.
Start with questions. Mayor Pro Tem, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Arnold?
I just want to make sure, this is the same thing that's in our packet, right?
Well,
All right,
yes,
but something changed,
we
right?
did have an updated few small tidbits. The mayor and I met on Friday, and we added a couple of small pieces of language, but very small changes. But it made it a lot better and tighter so that we got better standards.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that, I saw one thing that, it's just one thing that changed, right, which is C? Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay,
5-5C.
okay.
Councilmember Gay?
Not at this time.
I do have a question on the addition for 5-5C. It says that it refers to section 8-106 of our code, which is a definition section, but there's nothing, I don't see anything about high-risk properties. These are definitions for hotels, motels, and extended stays.
So you're thinking that maybe it should be put elsewhere?
I'm thinking that's not the section that would be the correct one to which to refer, based upon what 8-106 is.
I thought it was, but I'm not I did not anticipate that question, but when we looked at it, we tried always to find to house it
in the most appropriate place in the code. I'm certainly open to the possibility that we didn't, but that was certainly our endeavor.
But, okay, so my confusion is that 8-106 refers to hotels, motels, and extended stays. It was my understanding that this actually was broader than that and is looking at multifamily as well. And 8-106 is just definitions, though. It doesn't, and there is no definition for a high-risk property.
That might be a typo then. I can't explain it as I sit here now, but I'll figure it out before we vote.
Yeah, L said that we do have a definition already in the ordinances for high-risk properties. So we do have that definition. I don't know where it is in the code exactly, but it is. It may not, that may be the wrong line where it's located, but it's there, and it's been there for years, so we do have that definition. So if we have to make sure we put it in the right numbers where the definition already exists. All right.
Can we figure that out by 7:30? Okay.
Agenda item 3, discussion on ordinance regarding blighted properties, condemnation procedures, and millage rate increase. This item is sponsored by Councilman Joe Carn.
Councilmember Carr?
Again, improving our community, improving our neighborhoods, and increasing the standards and penalties for slumlords in our multifamily motels. This is what's called a blight condemnation procedure. This rate increase would increase the property taxes on a blighted property that's designated blighted by 25 times. This is identical to the City of Atlanta's blight tax. And this is specifically to eliminate that process. They have till the beginning of the next year to remedy the issues. If not, that blight tax goes into effect for those properties. So we're definitely doubling our efforts to make sure that we get this blight out of the community. So,
Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So,
Councilmember Gay?
if we improve this, are you saying that we be able to tax blighted property owners under home rule? We can make this
Yes.
start and do this?
in the state of Georgia allowed it.
We're not currently doing that now.
Mr. Demmer, could you use your microphone?
I think we are increasing it from 1% to a higher percentage. We're going up to 25%. 25% more than they would ordinarily be taxed.
And who designates the property blighted?
I'm sorry?
What department designate the property blighted? The law office, the code
Oh,
inspector,
no.
the building inspector?
No, it would be
Oh, inspection, no.
It's gonna be in
code.
Code,
inspections.
code or inspections or both?
Both.
And they just deem it, I mean, I'm having this problem, so I just wanna
No,
understand.
no.
They just deem it blighted?
There's a standard that we use to determine whether a property is blighted, I mean, based on the conditions prevailing, and that's already codified in our ordinance, so we wouldn't be making up some new standard for what constitutes blighted. That's something that we deal with all the time. We got like 12 open cases right now where we're dealing with blighted properties within the corporate limits of College Park. So all this is saying is that when these properties are in fact blighted, then in as much as we experience more resource dedication to those properties, we should be able to tax them at a higher rate.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Demmer, question for you, because it just occurred to me, a homesteader who has a blighted property, perhaps they have some other reason for having a blighted property, and do we want to make sure that this is we don't want to tax people out of their houses if they can't afford to be there in the first place. So I would not want that to be an unintended consequence of what we're trying to do here. If we're trying to hold people's feet to the fire, I don't think that, for instance, the senior citizen who can't afford to fix their roof and is getting citations to technically have a blighted property that we could tax at 25% the rate. That's not what we're shooting for, though. I haven't heard that from anybody on this council, and I don't think that that was the intent. So how do we make sure that we don't have people falling through the cracks and getting heavily taxed out of their homes?
Well, I think in special cases like that, I think perhaps we do need to add a request for a variance in circumstances like that, something along those lines.
What I would say is when we make the determination of blight, it's not kind of a mindless application. I mean, we look at a lot of circumstances, and so it's a fact-sensitive inquiry. Does this constitute a blighted property? And we go through an analysis. We look at some things, and I think some aggravating factors will exist and some mitigating factors will exist. And I think we have the ability to look at those.
Well, it's definitely on an individual basis when we look at this type of stuff, because this is serious, so.
But we could bake in some specific exclusions or we could do more than what I just said if that's the will of the body.
I just think for a homesteader, that someone who's living in the property, I just, perhaps-
The only challenge with that is I have blighted properties with homesteaders and seniors, and maybe it's in no fault of their own, but it's still blighted.
right?
And they have families and other resources, so at some point, you gotta find a happy medium. I don't want them excluded either. But I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think it's at the discretion of
it should be case.
the building officer and the body. Bring it to us before you tax it.
Is that, I don't think that's how this would work, as written.
No, it would be a staff determination on that. Now, we could leave it at that. And like we deal all the time with, the classic example is somebody's grass is too high. We knock on the door and it's an elderly person. I think common sense prevails in those circumstances, and we generally, as opposed to issuing a citation, we try to help them. So I think that's what would happen here, but what I just said may not be enough. And so we may need, from the council's perspective, to have more safeguards than what I just said, or not.
Mr. Denmark, is it possible for us, and this is one of the reasons why I think some cities actually do first and second readings of ordinances, and I think there's some merit to that because of issues like this. I think we can make this better. I think we can make it better. But I certainly don't want us to have unintended consequences of making sure that, or of taxing people out of their homesteaded properties. And I'm wondering if there is language that staff can think about to try to make sure that even if we're looking at this on a case-by-case basis, that we are not essentially doing government-sponsored gentrification.
Well, I think, Councilmember Gay, I think we have it where staff takes a look at the individual cases. Staff comes to us with a recommendation, and we make a decision on any blight. So we just add that sentence in or two, and I think that's the best way to look at it, because
We could certainly do that. I just caution that, the number could become pretty high. You could be looking at a high number, and maybe the mayor and council don't want to have that added workload. But what Councilman Carr, what you just said is one way to do it, that the blight determinations comes to this body, or we could write in some guardrails into the legislation that protects against the issue that the mayor just identified. And so I think that's another way to do
In
it.
Fulton County, they leave it up to the court. Why can't this be a court issue? Why can't that just go over there and let her determine blight?
Yes, sir.
Environmental court. Why are we even dealing with this?
Well, that's an option as well. Yes.
Councilmember Arnold, I thought you
No,
had
I was just
something to
gonna,
add.
I was just listening, we could also put in an appeal process.
That's what I was gonna say.
Something similar to, what, already exists with taxes, where, the homesteader could appeal to the determination.
I think I think, and that's actually a very good use of the governing body's time, that those appeals would come before the governing body as opposed to every single property that may be subject to this. So can we get some language in that, and can we circle back around for
And
it?
if that's the case, now you bring up another point. Then how do
It's
we
Councilmember Gay.
how do we deal with the properties that are over in the court? How are those properties brought back over here to? So what about her cases that she feel blighted? How do they get brought over here
Well,
to taxes? Because she fines them, not us.
right,
Because that's what mines are now. That's where you put mines over there.
yes. So, one, some of those are commercial, some of them are residential.
I'm
They're-
talking
they're-
residential, right?
Okay, but for the residential, if we're gonna impose the blight tax, then they can elect, to appeal or not. Now, I guess Councilman Gay is raising the point that we could have inconsistent determinations. Municipal court has determined that the property is blighted, for separate purposes, but for purposes of the blight tax, this body comes back and says that it's not blighted. And so we'd face the possibility of inconsistent rulings by different portions of the city. And so, I have to think about that. That's a good point. And so, I've heard the concerns. And so what I could do is, just take a stab at drafting language that respects what everybody has said this evening, and we can bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yeah, I think we need to hash this out a little bit more.
Agenda item 4, discussion on a resolution regarding the adoption of residential housing stability programs and service agreement. This item is sponsored by Councilman Joe Carn.
Councilmember Carn?
All right. Well, this item is obviously something to help in terms of stability with the city. As you all know, we're a very transient community, and we want to stabilize, and the better that we do stabilize, the better off I think we're going to be. I've spoken with our residents at several community meetings over the last few months, and there are those who are relatively new to the community, but the economic state of Georgia's, the economic climate here is challenging for some, and for a lot, it's a struggle to make it by in College Park month to month. I think, but with a little assistance from this type of a program, residents can start to build generational wealth and much more important, I think, generational stability staying here in College Park. And I think that kind of legacy building is really important for us in this city. So this is how we invest in our neighbors and change lives and make quality of life a little better here. So we want to do what we can to assist residents as best as we can.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I
Mayor
guess
Pro Tem?
maybe I do. I think it's a great program. Just some of our residents also have legal issues, especially those. I mean, are we just dealing with people who have home ownership, or are we looking at persons in multifamily too for this one? Is this just homeowners?
Well, we're looking at homeowners and multifamily in terms of stability programs. The multifamily resident program is part of this as well, but we are looking at stability overall in the entire community. So I think this helps both. So.
Several of our, especially our multifamily residents have issues when it comes to legal. Their apartment owners are requiring them to do things. For one, I've spoken to several persons in my ward who are concerned because of what they're being charged if they have someone come. If you have something wrong in your apartment, now some of these apartments are actually charging a fee, to come and look at, your water, whatever your water supply is. So I'm just wondering, do you think this program could incorporate maybe some assistance or some free legal aid as well?
It incorporates assistance on all of those sides. So we want to make sure it's available where residents have some recourse and have some funding and packages through the community service provider to make sure that we cover them in the best way that we can and just give them some assistance.
Okay, that was all, that's all I had. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Councilman.
I have a question.
Councilmember Gay?
So it's saying $200,000 to a nonprofit to implement this program. Now, is that something that's gonna be brought back to us once we identify who this nonprofit provider and be a little bit more specific about the scope of what they're gonna do? Kind of big,
Yes, sir, that's my understanding.
sir?
Yes, sir, that's my understanding, yes.
I thought I saw Fulton County.
Well, we were looking at,
So I saw that there were the same company that FACUS, so why are we not putting this out for
Mayor, that's what I just
bid?
asked.
Right.
I thought we were putting it out for bid.
No, there's already a contract drafted with a contractor.
No. I thought you just said we were putting this out to bid.
No, I didn't say bid, I thought we were gonna use, to bring it back, I didn't realize that
I didn't
that
either.
contract was on tonight's agenda, but, it just slipped my
Is
mind.
it on tonight's agenda?
well, it's on because we do have that outfit as a community service provider. But if we need to put it back out, and I checked with purchasing, about whether or not they have contracts with us, whether or not we could extend a contract along these lines or not.
I'm unclear about how,
But if we decide to put it out as an RFP, we can see what we get and get some options on it.
Councilmember Gay?
Councilman Corn, I think to be transparent, I think doing this is a good idea. Matter of fact, I think I suggested this to you, but I think at the same time, I think we need to be a little bit more transparent in putting it out and let it come back and see what other providers can bring to the table.
Okay, so we got the ordinance here, and then we put it out.
Put it out.
Come
You just
back
need to
once we
strike
get
that
the
provider on that.
So we'll take provider off of this.
Okay.
Well, I do have some questions about sort of outside of the provider themselves, the scope of this, because we are doing both homeowners who have been here for anyone who's been here for 3 years, it sounds like. Any homeowner, any renter with everything from minor home repair assistance, main water line insurance problems, interior noise mitigation, sanitation bill assistance, association fees, like HOA fees? Security system assistance, carbon dioxide detectors, emergency home kits, water leak detectors, and federal housing grant education. I have no idea how we quantify. I mean, this just is very, very broad, very, very vague. And while I think the goals are laudable, I'm concerned that this is basically, if anybody needs anything, they come to this fund, and we don't know if it actually serves the purposes for what we're trying to do. I think it needs to be tightened up a lot.
I have a suggestion.
Councilmember Gay?
Once you put it out like in the RFQ and let the provider bring back to us a scope that we can decide on, and here's all the parameters. Because somebody approached me last week about roofs. Somebody else may want this, and so let those providers come and tell us. I think it's a great idea, Councilman Cohen. Do you mind letting it go out for a request for qualifications?
All right, so we put it out and see what we get back.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right,
That's actually a good idea.
Cool.
yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
That's it.
Agenda item 5, discussion and possible action on council-sponsored agenda item procedures.
Who's handling stuff?
Mr. Denmark and myself, would you like to start, or would you like me to?
You can start, Kelly. I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. At the request of City Manager, this item was placed on the agenda to, for the discussion regarding established procedures for adding items to the city council agenda, including the city manager's responsibility for the agenda preparation and authority as outlined in section 4.7 of the city charter, and the role of the council member sponsorship in new agenda items, as well as council discussion regarding whether an agenda guidelines, policy, and procedure should be adopted to ensure that all items are met within the deadlines through the processes outlined in the city's code. And just a little bit of background on November 4th regarding the deadlines. On November 4th, 2024, City Council approved the 2025 council meeting schedule and corresponding agenda item deadlines. However, since that approval, both staff and council have not consistently adhered to established deadlines, and there's been frequent late submissions of agenda items, which have resulted in procedural challenges and disruptions to the agenda preparation process. These delays have impacted the staff's ability to thoroughly review and prepare the agenda materials. And staff is just asking if council would be interested in having the city attorney's office draft a policy and procedure to better streamline the process. For example, some of the challenges we ran into are if we receive late submissions, staff is often drafting resolutions, ordinances, and contracts on pretty much last minute, and that can be challenging for staff. And normal process is like all contracts, resolutions, and ordinances need to be viewed by the legal department as well as the purchasing manager. Well, the purchasing manager does not review the resolutions and ordinances, just the contracts.
If I might, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Denmark?
So this is a little bit of a difficult conversation, right? Because, all five of you stood in front of your neighbors and asked to be elected, and you feel an obligation to deliver good government to the people of the city of College Park. And so you have ideas, things legislatively that you want to see enacted, contracts that you think are in the city's best interest. And so I've worked with all of you for a number of years, and you're all passionate about getting that done, which is a very, very good thing. However, the practical reality is that we have a process in terms of the deadline for getting items on the agenda. The chief reason that we do that is because we have to give the public notice of these agenda items, right? And that's under the Georgia Open Meetings Act. We have to publish our agendas. And so when we get items past the deadline, sometimes it's difficult to give adequate notice to the public. And so the public received an agenda that's different from the agenda that we're working from that has new and additional items. So that's a big issue, but it's also an issue for the staff in terms of trying to put together an ordinance, a contract, a resolution, this whole thing on the Friday before the meeting, the council meeting on that Monday. And so it's from, and you have to ask the question, are we doing the proper reviews? Are we reviewing the contract with this vendor and going through all of our checks and protocols in an appropriate way to adequately protect the city when we're kind of working under the gun to get something done at the last minute? And so I think there are competing goals. On the one hand, members of the governing body wanting to put forth enactments that are in the best interest of the community, but on the other hand, doing it in a manner that's consistent with the Open Meetings Act and giving the public adequate notice, and also giving staff the time to do the best work and get the best work product on the agenda.
Ms. Miller, did you want to add anything?
Thank you.
And then there was also the issue, because I guess there's been an ongoing conversation about various members of the governing body having the ability to put items on the agenda. Kelly cited to section 4.7 of the charter which delineates the city manager's duties. The one thing about our charter is it's silent on clear language on who sets the agenda for the city. However, 4.7 has said that the city manager presents items to the council, attends the meetings, and then presents the items. And so we've always interpreted that to mean that the city manager sets the agenda. And I've been around City Hall since January of 2004. And in all that time, through at least 12 city managers, 15 if you count interims, the city manager has always set the agenda. And so I think by the best language we have in the charter and by decades of precedent, the city manager sets the agenda. But I know that there has been countless instances where members of the governing body have called and said, I want this item on the agenda, I want that item on the agenda. And whether they get it on or they don't get that item on the agenda has created a lot of conversation. So that's as much as I want to say about it, and I want to leave it for the members of the governing body to address how we should go forward.
All right. Anyone have any comments? Well, I do think that it's incumbent upon all of us to ensure that we are doing our best by our staff and by our residents. So if we need to do something different to ensure that we are being timely with this and also making sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. I don't know that anyone's going to object to the idea that we make sure that every item on the agenda is properly vetted before we put it out there. Nope, didn't hear anybody say that we shouldn't. So I know the timelines are tight, and Madam Clerk, I think after the last meeting, I think that meeting was on Tuesday, and the deadline for the upcoming agenda was Thursday. Is that right? I think it was a tight turnaround, most definitely.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Is there an opportunity to maybe widen that window? Because a 48-hour turnaround, and granted, we were dealing with a holiday at the last meeting, and so we met on Tuesday instead of Monday. But is there an opportunity to perhaps make that wider?
Mayor, Member Tim, Council. So we have two issues here tonight. The first, to answer your question, is yes. I am working with the clerk, and I will provide her with a draft so that she can enhance the schedule, so that the agenda review does fall after the council meeting, which provides an additional week in between, which then gives us enough time to review and post the agenda. The second item here tonight is the ability to have council to place items on the agenda. Who does that? How it should be done. In any event, when we get requests for items to be added to the agenda, it is the city manager's agenda, and it is my understanding from the legal opinion of the attorney that the council members are the individuals that can sponsor an item. We need to have the discussion tonight as to if the mayor goes to council or if the mayor has the ability to place the item on their agenda herself.
Well, I'll talk about that. I think given the fact that all of us have been through the budgetary process, we all have community enhancement budgets and have the discretion to bring those items for consideration to this body along with anyone else on this dais. I think that the council should have the ability to determine thumbs up and thumbs down on the proposals that I bring. It seems to me to essentially put the mayor in somewhat of a second-class elected official status to have to find a council member to sponsor anything that I would put on the agenda. And it actually means that staff members, department heads, could do something that I, the only citywide elected official, could not. And I know that in the past, I know Councilmember Gay, you have express your support for any elected body, or a member of the elected body, being able to put items on the agenda. I think this is something that ultimately the council makes the determination, thumbs up or thumbs down. I know that there's been conversation about the difference between the executive and the legislation. Unless it comes to a tie, I mean, the vote is the council's. But in terms of precedent and how every other person who has sat in this seat has had the opportunity to bring forth their ideas, it's not only a matter of fairness, but I also think a matter of ensuring that we are representing everyone in this community. It is still the determination of my 4 colleagues, maybe me at some point if it's a tie vote, whether or not a proposal moves through. But the fact that a proposal gets on the agenda, I don't think I should have to go through an extra hoop that a department head or one of my other colleagues would not. All right then. I think that's the last item on the agenda. So I guess we'll see everybody at the regular meeting at 7:30.